You're a worthless leech to this company. You're a worthless leech to this company. His voice tore through the boardroom like a whip. My father-in-law didn't just speak, he sentenced. His face was red, veins visible, his finger stabbing the air toward me as though I were a stain on his empire. I didn't flinch. The words landed, heavy and deliberate, but I had rehearsed this moment in my mind long before he ever spat them. "You're fired. Get out." My wife's voice joined his, sharp, final, no hesitation. No pause to consider that I was her husband, her supposed partner. She looked at me with the kind of practiced disdain that doesn't grow overnight. "I'll see you in court. You won't get a penny in divorce." That was her contribution to my funeral. They gave me until 5 p.m. to pack, to strip my name from the walls I helped build, to leave quietly, to vanish. But their phones buzzed before I even reached the parking lot. Over 50 calls, notifications stacking, vibrating, demanding. Their expressions flickered, confusion, then unease. I noticed. I always notice. I walked out silent. My face was calm, but my pulse was deliberate, steady. They thought they had buried me. They had no idea the ground was shifting beneath their feet. It wasn't the firing that cut deepest. I had expected that blade long before it pierced. It was the look in her eyes. Cold, certain, practiced. Like she had rehearsed this ending with him. Father and daughter, employer and wife. Two fronts of betrayal converging in perfect synchronization. I replayed the last few months in my head. Late nights she claimed were work dinners. Conversations that cut off when I entered a room. His hand on her shoulder, lingering too long. The way she defended him when I raised even the slightest concern. I told myself it was loyalty, family, protection of their empire. But the truth had been scratching at the back of my mind, patient and cruel. It wasn't business, it wasn't blood, it was something darker. I didn't let myself name it yet, not yet. I moved like a ghost through the days that followed. Calm, dismissed, forgotten. That's what they believed. But my silence was never surrender. It was strategy. I began with her phone records. A quiet favor from a friend at the telecom office. Long calls, midnight exchanges, always the same number. His, father, employer, her ally. I studied the timestamps, the patterns. Not board meetings, not emergencies. Whispered conversations in hours meant for sleep. Then her bank statements. Transfers, small, frequent, to an account that wasn't ours. An account tied back to him. I requested a DNA test, quietly, without her knowledge. My son's toothbrush against my own. The swab burned in my hand as I sealed it in the sterile packet. Waiting was agony, but I endured. Outwardly, I remained still. When she served me papers, I signed without resistance. When she mocked me over dinner, I chewed in silence. Inside, though, a storm gathered. Every detail was another brick in the gallows they were building for themselves. I kept my hand steady, my voice even, but my eyes never stopped watching. The envelope arrived on a Wednesday, thin, harmless, deceptive. Inside, truth. The boy I had raised, held, called my son, wasn't mine. 0% probability. Science carved through my denial like glass through skin. I read it twice, then a third time. Each line colder than the last. The betrayal was complete. Not just infidelity, not just deceit. Blood itself had been rewritten. My lineage erased. My trust weaponized. That evening, I placed the report in front of her at dinner. No words, just paper. She laughed at first, nervous. Then the color drained from her face as her eyes moved line by line. Her fork slipped from her hand. I can explain. I didn't answer. I didn't blink. Her father's call came mid-sentence. She ignored it. Her hands shook as she reached for mine. But I was already gone. Friday, 5 p.m. The same hour they had given me to disappear. The boardroom was crowded. Executives, shareholders, faces waiting for instruction, for stability. I entered quietly. My presence drew silence like a knife draws blood. Her father's eyes widened, but he forced a smirk. "You don't belong here." I slid a folder across the table. Not just the DNA results, phone logs, bank transfers, photos, enough to paint the portrait of their conspiracy with brutal clarity. The room shifted. Murmurs, stares. His empire was cracking beneath him. She reached for me, whispering my name, pleading. I stood, composed, untouchable. "You took everything," I said softly, "so I left you nothing." And I walked out. No raised voice, no violence, just silence. The kind that buries deeper than any scream. I didn't look back. The empire they had built was rotting from within. My silence had been the wedge, the truth, the hammer. Now the collapse was inevitable. They would fight each other, tear flesh from bone, destroy themselves to survive. And me? I was free. The weighted betrayal no longer pressed on my chest. There was no grief, no longing, just clarity. They had tried to end me at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday. By Friday, 5 p.m., I had ended them. Finality isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It's the quiet click of a door closing and never opening again.